So at some point I would go to many networking events and they became really repetitive, which had some funny side effects. First, when I went to them, I was really shy and I didn't want to, when I talked to people, I was trying to be genuine and I didn't want to come off as very boisterous or bragging or any of that sort. But because I had so many of these loops where I would just talk to people for some 10-20 minutes and then talk to some other people, as you do at these networking events, I became really a bit, I would just shoot down a exaggerated version of what I did. And as I built this app, I would just say that I'm the founder of this language learning app, and I'm doing this right now, and because just everyone would exaggerate a bit, so I would do it too. And I also became a bit tired of telling people that I did this, so I just like, I'm a co-founder. And at this one networking event, I happened to randomly, so it was in Berlin, stand next to some guy, and I was like, oh, hello, by the way, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm so-and-so, so what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm the co-founder of this language learning app, blah, 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 blah. And I said it like really condescendingly, but not because I wanted to be condescending, just because I was like tired of like repeating this mantra all this time. And then he was like, oh, that's so cool. I'm also the founder of a language learning app. And I was like, which one? He was like, it's called Tandem. And it was really funny because I had used Tandem before and it was like a fairly big app. There was two, in this niche, a language learning niche, there was two main apps, Hello World and Hello Talk and Tandem. And this guy was the founder. There was like two founders. He was one of them, and they're like a Berlin company, one of the few successful Berlin companies. It was just like quite funny for me to meet him that way. And we met a few times more after this and talked a bit. And he's a cool guy. But just like funny little story. So what's the best way to get your foot in the door, get a job in tech that's well paying and whatnot? Well, little prelude, you shouldn't have the biggest motivation that's high paying, but you should enjoy it. But so how can you get that first tech job? How can you get the foot in the door? A little warning, it's not gonna be super easy, but at the same time, you're not alone. So many people that have not studied computer science, they become very successful software engineers. I'm going to tell you now how to do it based off how I did it. I studied back in 2015, 16, I forgot already, business administration. So first I even studied political science, but I really didn't like it. And then I switched to business administration, and even this was not so nice. So I was passionate about language learning, and I tried all the apps. I didn't like them, and I set out to build up my own language learning app. This started with building a tiny app for exam I had coming up in Excel, and someone told me it's close to programming. It's actually like a known meme that there's some overlap. So I started learning JavaScript because I wanted to build a web app, and I started learning programming. And I was very passionate because it was very fascinating to me to build my own app. And I was also into this whole startup stuff. Read a bunch of business books. I was studying business after all. And I built my language learning app, my side project, which has become a tiny bit stale. I'm working on it right now again. But back then it wasn't stale. I was working actively on it. I was just very inexperienced. I finished my studies. I really wanted to land a job then in software engineering at some startup, and I applied online to a bunch of companies, as you might try too, and it was really sad. I just got rejection after rejection after rejection. So what can you do in this situation? Not much, right? Well, here's what I did. After I actually got my degree and I had my little app, I realized it was going to be really important to be where all the action is. So I was really lucky that I got an easy apartment in Berlin, but it's really worth going to a capital city, a tech city, the nearest tech city in your proximity, and to move there. I can't understate enough how important it is, even with remote and everything, to get your foot in the door, to be where all the action is. So I moved to Berlin and I kept working on my app. And then I went to a bunch of networking events and I would talk about my app to these people. And I even got to know these people, like the Tandem founder. And even with these people, it wasn't impossible to get a job. I got quite a few people. I met them. They were quite interested in hiring me, even though I didn't have any experience. I mean, I never really interviewed with them really late stage, but they were quite open to the idea, and just the thing was there wasn't really a great fit because of the programming languages. And I actually burned out going to all these networking events because, as mentioned, they're quite repetitive. And then as fate would struck, there was one, so I used Meetup. That's a great thing you should do, is you should use an app like Reddit or Meetup to find these events, networking events. So there was an networking event or event scheduled for this company called Chatterbug, and it was in language learning, so I was super interested in going. I had gone to all the language learning meetups and all the networking meetups and all the entrepreneurship meetups and whatnot. I was quite tired already, and then I got the notification on my phone that this meetup was going to start in 2 hours, and I didn't even think of, like, I had forgotten about this. It was just in my reminders, and I was like, oof, I don't really want to go, and I wasn't going. And then I was like, screw it, it's the last, it's going to be the last one I go to. It's like a close match to what I want to do. And so I went there tediously through the whole city. Well, this split-second decision really changed my life. I mean, I would have found another way, but this is the point, right? You gotta, if preparation meets opportunity, that's called luck, or the saying. At this meetup, I talked to a bunch of people, and I listened to basically it was like the founders of Chatterbug wanted to talk about Chatterbug and made this conference, or not the conference, it's just some meetup thingy, and talked about the app and some people. And there were quite a few, like, because the founders of Chatterbug were actually the founders of GitHub, some of them. There was a lot of people at this event that, the tech scene of Berlin, so to say, at least some of them. There I also met the Tandem founder, and Tobias is his name, I think, and some other people. Met quite a few people this way, actually, not at this event, but in general. And I also met the CEO of Chatterbug, and I had obviously looked at their job postings before, and I thought even of applying cold. But at this event, of course, it was a bit uncomfortable, but you learn to do this with exposure therapy, but just doing it maybe in lesser stakes. So with this guy, Scott Chacon, the founder of Chatterbug, I talked to him, I waited for a good moment, and then actually I never found a good moment, and I didn't want to ask him for a job like in front of like 10 people or 20 people, because there was like 150 people there, and always like 10 people around him wanting to talk to him. And I waited for this, so this event just suddenly ended because I think the people that owned the venue for the noise, quietness, after 10 p.m. they had ended, they got kicked out almost, and just they got emphasized they have to end it. So so we all got sent out, and I actually went like back, even though I wasn't allowed to. And because the small group, the Scott Chacon, the CEO, and some of his friends were still like hanging out in this, alone in this area still. So I went to them and I just, asked him cold call style. I just asked him for the job thingy. I was awkward and stumbly, but it's okay. That's totally fine. And yeah, he was very gracious and very friendly and super nice. And he asked me to email him, which I did. And then I followed up, and then I got an interview. And then through this interview process with them, in which I was quite naive and just very passionate and all about building a cool product, fortunately, they accepted me. So I worked there, and I worked there for 3 years, and it was an amazing time. And yeah, so thanks to Scott Chacon and the other people for accepting me back then. But yes, I think this is the sort of how you do it. You need to meet people face to face. It really helps to get your foot in the door. And after I got this job, I met many people. I mean, still to this day, I meet a lot of people, and I also became a really good engineer, meaning it's not necessary to study computer science, though I would really like to study computer science actually, but the barrier is quite high. I don't want to do it for 3 years of my life, and then you have to study things that are really hardcore, that are not so related to your field, and those might be nice. But so I studied both business and political science, and there was like 30% really useful stuff in there, and 70% really esoteric, completely useless knowledge that I really had to learn really hardcore, know perfectly, and even then it was difficult, those exams. Yeah, I met a lot of people that got jobs a similar way. So one of my colleagues, she was at a women tech event, and then she met my ex-boss at Chatterbug, and so he went to this event too, and then they got in touch, and she got a job last minute. She had another offer, and so yeah, I think it's quite common for people to get jobs this way, or it's like a nice way, and at the same time A lot of the 90% of the engineering colleagues I have, they are without the CS, they're self-taught without a CS degree, and still they're quite successful. It's not like I'm working with like the bottom of the barrel. They're really quite successful people who, I work at a very exciting company right now, and also these people, one of them is a team lead or something like this at Kraken, big company. Then some other person works at GitHub, another person works at Netlify. So quite big names, and also at Jitterbug, they came from really nice backgrounds. So to sum it all up, be passionate and really curious, build something that you're very passionate about. You will learn so much from that. Go where all the action is happening, where all the people are, talk to them, they will like you, and then just learn to be bold and, you know, ask for opportunities, ask for a job. And that's how you can get your break. If you already have a job, how did you get your first job? Please let me know in the comments. Also, please subscribe. Each subscribe is like €1 for me to invest in this channel and buy better equipment. And yeah, have a really fantastic day. Bye.